This episode of Talk the Walk is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our family of podcasts, head over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia or search for us on the Patreon app on your smart device. Thanks for helping us build something better. Hello everybody, welcome to Talk the Walk here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, the Enlightened Excited Eddie B. Joining me from Games Red, he's a guy that is getting ready to prepare for a certain kingdom that hopefully it doesn't make him tear up. Everybody, please welcome Greysun Morales, friend to Boss Rush from Nintendo Power Block and other podcasts. Hello, good sir.
Thank you, Ed. Hi. Very happy to be here to talk about Before Your Eyes. Super excited that you asked me to come on because this is a game that I really love, and I got to talk about it on Boss Rush like 2 years ago. So it's a nice, we gotten to this point now, so that's pretty cool that we're talking about it like this.
Yes, as Greysun mentioned, we are going to be talking about Before Your Eyes in this game. Wow, this game it's something very new, definitely for me as a gamer. Definitely talking to what we do here on the show, where we talk about walking simulators and everything. This was a different kind of walking simulator, so I'm so glad to discuss it. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, Greysun, how did you find out about this game?
Man, I don't remember exactly. I feel like there must have been some sort of trailer during one of these big presentations, like a Summer Games Fest, like an indie presentation or something, because I don't remember where I found out about it. But I think I really saw people talking about it on Twitter, like through social media. After people started getting their hands on it and realizing that it's a special game. So I think a lot of people were starting to share and write posts about it. I'm like maybe Polygon or Kotaku and stuff. I think I ended up getting a code from one of the people who was doing the PR for the game. And I played it. I remember tweeting about it, loving it. And then other people started getting codes too from like the PR company, and everyone just kind of got their hands on it and got a chance to try it out. How did you find out about it? Well, it might have been through me, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, I found it out by you. I heard other people talking about it, and I remember you were just like talking so positive about this game and so emotionally. And so I wasn't, and I'm going to tell everybody, I am not a PC player. I don't play a lot of PC games on Steam. The first game that I ever beat in was Grand Theft Auto 3 on PC. And yes, I used the cheat code to get through that game because it was a mess. But I remember just hearing this game and I was just like, well, Greysun plays it. We got this show, Talk the Walk. I'm like, we should really get into it. So I reached out to Greysun a while back and I said, you know what, I'm putting the plug and I'm going to be talking about us playing Before Your Eyes. So we planned it for March to play this game, and I knew it wasn't too long to play, but some things changed, and so I made a decision that, you know what, since it's not long, let me reach out to Greysun and ask him, hey, would you actually like to do like a deep dive about this game? And Greysun said yes. And so thank you, Greysun. Thank you for introducing me to this game. I got like 3 achievements on Steam from it. And I think the game does have replay value, but we'll get into that part a little bit later. I'm just going to give a little bit of history about Before Your Eyes. It was developed by Goodbye World Games and published by Skybound Games. games. It released on Windows on April 8th, 2021, Mac OS on September 28th, 2021, and Android OS on July 26th, 2022. And it just recently came out for PSVR 2 for PlayStation 5. So you can
Right.
play before your eyes. They showed it on their State of Play Direct that came out a while back. So, which was kind of like the highlight of this game. When it got announced for that State of Play, that everybody was just like, "Oh, before your eyes is coming." And when I seen it and I seen the name, I'm like, "Oh, I know Greysun is probably losing his mind seeing this trailer." He's just like, one of my favorite games is on. It's going to be SVR, too." And so, by the time you guys see this, if you want to play it that way, you can experience it in virtual reality.
Yeah, I
Now,
don't think it's something that is worth buying a PSVR 2 for, of course. So
mhm,
if you have a computer to play it, like I have a MacBook Air and this game runs fine if you have the graphics on low. It's not a game where you have to have the graphics high because obviously it's not like what you said, you're just clicking through certain scenes. You're not like walking around and fighting stuff.
yes,
But I think playing on VR would probably be really cool because that's like probably way more authentic. It feels like you're probably in that world and be able to look around with the helmet and then like try not to blink and stuff, which we'll talk about later, of course.
yes. Um, the game uses your device's camera to progress the story. Every time the player blinks, the story moves forward. It was the biggest gameplay function to be used to market the game. It has won a BAFTA for Game Beyond, and was nominated in the Games for Impact for the Game Awards in 2021. So, you ready, Grayson? Let's talk about this game. Started off, um, Benjamin Benny Byron floats on a dark sea. Before being picked up by a boat helmed by the ferryman, Benny's unable to speak or gesture, though the ferryman is able to perceive his blinking, which becomes his primary mode of communication. The ferryman explains that he senses something unique in Benny and is bringing him to the gatekeeper for judgment. If deemed worthy, Benny will be allowed to enter the gatekeeper's paradise and the ferryman will be rewarded. If not, Benny will be turned into one of the seagulls that frequently crowds the boat. To facilitate this, the ferryman asks him to recount his memories so that he may be able to spin a tale for the gatekeeper. However, he explains that Benny will be unable to stay within the memories, as they will flash forward as soon as he blinks. So, before we get into the discussion, I had a very big issue with this game. And the issue was the blinking itself.
Okay.
Because the camera cannot pick up your eyes behind glasses.
Oh, I didn't think about how glasses would work with this game because they
Yes.
ask you at the beginning if you have glasses. So I thought maybe it would
No, it
help.
doesn't.
Oh shoot.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't.
so did you have issues then? Like, was it thinking you were blinking when you weren't, or when you blinked and the game didn't
So what
register?
ended what ended up happening is that I had to play the game without my glasses on.
Hmm. How was that?
And so my camera, it picked up some of my blinking here and there, but I kind of had to be very close to,
Hmm.
because I'm nearsighted, everybody. I
Okay.
had to be very close to my computer, which was fine. And I had to blink, and because a lot of the stuff is voice acted, I was just like, okay, that I don't have to worry about. And then when I was ready to blink, I would look up something, and then I would blink, for it. But yeah, I was just like, this is kind of concerning in a way to me.
Yeah, that's
Um,
unfortunate because I feel like it's such an important part of the game. So if that, like, when I played it, it works for me perfectly fine. I have my webcam here and it's like
mm,
perfect, especially when you're testing it at the beginning. Like, it works fine. Um, yeah, so it sucks to hear that you had that experience because I feel like that sort of diminishes the whole thing for you.
yeah.
Like,
And
so.
I actually had to get the game to recognize my red camera because it was going
Mm,
through my computer when I'm just like, no, I need you to recognize my camera that I
mm,
use. So it did. I got it all together, and then I started playing the game.
dang.
Um, when you start the game, you're a baby in a sense, like you're a toddler. And you're hitting your mom play the piano, and she
Mm,
just submitted a piece, hoping that it get accepted and everything. Um,
right.
but they want you to go in a different route. They actually give you a choice to be an artist or a piano
Mm.
player. What did you choose? Uh,
Um, so you're talking about like the moment when he's drawing the picture and you can like push it down, right? Is that what changes
yeah.
the? Yeah. So I did that when I was just playing, but I don't remember if I did the same thing when I first played. But yeah, I pushed it down, so it was going towards the route of him playing piano. Um, yeah. What about you?
I went with the piano.
Yeah.
I did the same thing, and so um, that was kind of cool that they was giving you traces in this game
Hmm.
for it. And then okay, or of course, like as you grow, as you're playing the piano, which was cool was that if you're using your mouse, because
Hmm.
you still kind of got the mouse gameplay. The piano will flash, and you will use the mouse cursor to make sure that it goes along, so it sounds like you're playing. You didn't see no hands or anything,
No,
and
no.
as you grow, you continue, to improve your skill, and everything. And then there is a point that, uh, you know, your mom is just like she kind of wants to. We'll get into that because your mom has some aspirations for you a little bit
Correct.
and everything. Um,
Um, well, I don't know if you mentioned, but like the just so people know, like the whole blinking thing. So you're going through Benny's life from a kid. Uh, it goes in progression from a kid. He's getting older, and you're watching these scenes. The scene will start, and you can just blink normally, and nothing will happen. But a few seconds into the scene, a metronome pops up on the bottom of the screen, and when the metronome pops up, that's when you cannot blink. And when you blink, the game immediately cuts to the next point in time. And the next point in time is not always the same day. It's like it can be days, it can be months, it can be years.
yeah,
And usually what the game will do, it's like we'll have give you a conversation with someone and that thing pops up and you kind of want to stay in that moment for as long as you can without blinking. And it's very difficult to do a lot of the times where I'm like staring like so hard to do so. There's certain scenes like we'll get to later where like there's like a phone that's ringing and your character's like
mm.
slowly walking towards it. And you just like you can't do it because it's like such a long time to not blink. Um, but that's like the main mechanic of the whole blinking thing, just to get that out there.
Which at sometimes I held something up to my face and turned my head so my camera
No,
couldn't
you
see,
cheated.
and then I blinked. It came back. I just did it once to see if it recognizes and
Mhm.
everything. You gotta test the limits and stuff. Everything else, I took my glasses off and was blinking when I
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Um, with it. So, Benny begins to recount his childhood growing up in a small seaside town with his parents, Richard, an office worker. Hold on one second. Yeah, Richard, an office worker, and Ellie, an accountant and aspiring composer. The family also begins caring for a stray cat they name Ernie. As he grows up, Benny develops a fondness for art and especially music due to his mother's influence. One day, unsupervised, Benny begins playing Ellie's composition on the piano by ear and believing him to be a prodigy. His parents quickly decide to enroll him in piano lessons. Over the years, Benny continues to improve his piano skills, impressing his parents and their friends. He also meets and befriends Chloe, his outspoken, adventurous neighbor.
Hmm.
Now, uh, not Chloe. The cat Ernie, the
Hmm.
mom is allergic to and everything.
Right.
Uh, and you
She
do
gets
get
she has a
points.
bunch of allergies, sneezing, and she can barely like speak normally without. You can hear it in her voice, right?
Yeah, and I was um didn't care for the cat. Like, like why you give me a cat for my birthday? And everything. And I was just like, okay, that's fine.
Hmm.
Giving us the cat. But as time goes on, something you kind of end up missing the cat. in a sense and everything. And it was just like, oh, okay, I get it. And knowing at this point nothing is wrong, you are learning the family life, seeing it through your eyes as a kid and everything.
Yeah,
And you got your parents' love, because they're joking around here and there. I thought the dad was a teacher.
he is. Yeah, he was a professor. Well, I don't
Okay.
know if that was when they met, or I don't know if it was like currently. 'Cause I remember him talking about um she was a student. Oh, what was she doing? She was doing something in college, and he was a professor. So he was mentioning how he thought that she was impressed by him, so that's how they like hit it off and stuff.
What did you think of this family life at this time?
In this beginning part, it's cool because the game sort of frames it as if you are a kid, the way it puts like your point of view. So you have like the
Yes.
cat, and you can play around with the little cat toy, right? Like over and over again. And then you have like the parents in the background talking about whatever, like making jokes, or like sometimes they could be talking about like serious topics or issues going on. But you're just kind of like, it's kind of in the background, you're focused on the cat, you're focused on like the toy because you're a child. And it kind of like made me remember how it is to be like a kid, and you're not really worrying about what adults are talking about or thinking about. It's just kind of like he's distracted and he's a kid, so like that's just what a kid does. So it kind of puts you in that frame, which is cool, like that point of view, which I like.
How did you feel like if that was you in that kid's place?
I mean, it feels safe, right? It feels like a nice family dynamic until later, obviously when things change, but it feels safe, like the best life a kid could have growing up. Um, I think things start to take a turn when like I think his mom pushes him to become like this prodigy. It's like something that it's funny because throughout the game she always talks about how she doesn't feel confident as a piano player, right? She
Yeah.
she used to compose music in college, and she never feels like she did what she wanted to do. And she's sort of pushing that onto her son Benny, and kind of living vicariously through him, like you're gonna become a prodigy the way I want it to be, which is like it's just an interesting dynamic, I guess.
Yes.
But yeah.
Now, Chloe, you end up meeting this girl because you're playing outside and everything, and you see her and you have to blink, and it moves forward of you guys meeting and everything. Uh, Two things I want to ask you. Uh, how did you think about her, um, when she was playing video games with you, and what did you think about her while you was in school with the teacher?
It was cute. Like it was really nice, especially when you first meet her. It's like a really fun interaction, but she just seems like such a outgoing, confident, like not afraid of anything type of girl. And Benny's more of a shy, out like not really speaking to anyone unless he's spoken to sort of person.
Mm,
But I feel like meeting her just kind of like changed everything for him, where he's like he found someone he can confide in. He found someone who's like can take him on an adventure and kind of offer like a distraction, I guess. But no, I like her in class and stuff. She's really fun and cool, and I love like the note that she sent to him and stuff. And yeah, it was great.
wasn't she? Did she ask that if to help her cheat or something or give her the answer? Yeah,
I
the
forgot.
teacher asked her a something question, and it gave you the option, to give her the answer or not.
Oh, okay.
And I did it. I didn't give her the answer.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. I haven't played in so long, but that's interesting too. Um,
Oh, would you have given her the answer or not?
I probably would have gave it to her because she's like,
Okay.
kind of like a best friend now. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. And you want to let her down.
Oh, we'll get into that question a little bit later.
Yeah.
Trust me. Um, Eventually, Ellie manages to set up a audition for Benny, which would allow him to enter a prestigious music school. And Benny's given a year to practice several pieces for his audition. As Ellie intensifies their apprentice sections, Richard voices his concerns about Benny, leading to several arguments about his future. On the night before the audition, Chloe invites Benny to camp with her on the beach, and he can either accept or reject her to focus on his audition. The next day, I rejected her. I stayed in the bed to sleep. Uh,
I don't
uh,
remember what I did. I think I rejected it too, to be honest.
okay.
I think that's what happened.
The next day, Benny plays the piece he had been practicing, but is rejected by the school regardless of his performance. Soon after, he is taken to a doctor due to an unspecific illness. And, you know, they gave him encouraging words, but something about it, they was just like, they don't think he's ready yet and everything. And I was kind of shocked. I'm like, if he did so well, if he met all your standards, what was it about him not being able to go to that school? Because I really think that this is more of I understand the conflict of what they're kind of doing, but I kind of felt like since he wasn't a like rich child or anything, like he comes from a rich family, I kind of feel like in a way that he may have been like middle class, and they were very empty to see him come to a school like that with him being middle class.
So you're saying like they rejected him maybe because of like he wasn't like rich enough, sort of like
Yes.
his status.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know because like yeah, you're right. He was a good player. But I don't know. I feel like they did that to just kind of like do something to the mother, maybe to like make her feel like, oh, maybe this wasn't the right path for my son,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Because eventually he starts going into art, and
Right.
that start leading into some things. Um, Although the illness leaves Benny unable to leave the house, he is eventually discovers his passion for art and develops a skill, allowing him to get into art school. Benny's unique style eventually garners him widespread attention over the years, and he becomes a successful artist. Now, this is where we're going to stop at and have a discussion. Because when we get to the rest of the game, this is when the emotional parts start kicking in.
Mm.
So, with Benny becoming a artist and everything, uh, do you feel like that was kind of forced in a sense? Because you weren't able to do both at the same time. I mean, even though you drew Chloe for your birthday and everything, you had the option to draw her. Um, and then put her on the paper and everything. And Chloe looked because you guys she made fun of you for drawing her and doing that.
Okay,
She's
I
just
remember
like, I
that.
can't believe you did that and everything. And it was kind of showing how Chloe has feelings for Benny.
Yeah, she felt some type of way about that. Like, oh, I can't believe this boy just drew a picture of me. Like, what are you doing?
Right. Because in the game, Chloe asks, do you like me or are we just friends? You know, you could like her or do or friends on her. I friends on her, heart like quickly, cause she made fun of my art. I'm not gonna be with you. You made fun of my art. No.
She was just playing around. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
So
the whole painting thing, like I don't know, because he really couldn't play piano, right, with the sickness. So the painting is like one of the only things he was able to do. And then he gets into the art school, right, after he
yes,
gets really famous for, or not famous, but like his work gets really recognized and stuff. Um,
cause
yeah, I don't know.
you had to draw like a new person, a new man.
Mm,
I believe.
okay, God, I wish I should have replayed it the whole thing again because it's like I have like such missing gaps of memories. Um,
So I want to ask you before we get into the emotional part. You probably was expecting something to happen, but without spoiling the rest of the game, do you think this turn was just like a big U-turn, or was you just like, I expected something to happen, but I'm surprised they decided to go this way with it.
I don't know. I think I remember playing and kind of not being surprised. Just sort of, I was expecting something very, very sad to happen. Just the tone of the game and the way it starts and stuff. And it's like I'm about to cry because this is so sad. No, I kind of expected it. I don't know, but it still
And
hit.
we kind of, I mean, we kind of knew something was going to happen because he's on that ferry,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Obviously, he
and
passed.
everything.
So
Uh, but it was just to me, it took a weird turn. Because I feel like they did a big U-turn, and it
mm.
was just like, wait a minute, it okay if you guys are going to do this, and I understand why you did it to actually show the honesty. Excuse me. Why was some of the choices given to me, like the options given to me? You know, uh, why was I able, to meet Chloe as an adult and everything? And as I'm walking, she's telling me her life and everything. Like, why do that and stuff? You know, I guess it's just like, why the fake out and everything? And I
Mm.
wonder, was it because it was Benny telling his side to the ferryman so the ferryman could say something? And I wonder, did the ferryman, who was a wolf, uh, and wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
Wolves are sneaky. They like to lie and
Mm.
everything. And it's kind of ironic that I mentioned that because Benny is telling him this story, is telling him this lie, and you think a wolf would go along with it, but the ferryman kind of smells something isn't right, kind of knows something is right because he has to spin this story soon. So instead of the wolf being in sheep's clothing so he could get what he want, he's Benny is the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, he's trying to like lie to spin a tale basically, right? That he's lived this like really not extravagant life, but like a troubled life, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To make it seem like it's more than what it is. Um,
And yeah, it's very interesting. So he becomes a successful artist. However, when Ellie Sunday dies, Benny falls into a slump and isolates himself from the world, only able to paint variations of his mother's final portrait. When Richard calls Benny and asks him to help clear some of Ellie's belongings, Benny finds her old sheet music when revitalizes his artistic drive and allows him to paint a new portrait of his mother, which he displays at his latest exhibition. There, Benny runs into a adult Chloe and she invites him out for a drink. So, uh, yeah, that was, you're thinking, okay, this is the story. And we never find out what the disease was, and everything.
no.
But there is a part where, you know, Benny is walking to his kitchen door and it's like dark outside and something is
Mm.
red out there. But you actually don't know what it is. You think that your dad is going to be depressed and everything, but he's just like, no, I'm cleaning the house and everything. Uh, and so you think that you have this kind of fairy tale, like this. You have this. Yes, it's sad that the mom died, but this this is the way that the game ends, and you just probably ended up dying from old age, because like you said, dying from being an artist. Um, there is a choice though. Also, I forgot to talk about this choice. This man is telling you about your art, and
Mhm.
there's a woman that's trying to make you an offer, give you this check. Did you take the offer or not?
Oh my god, I don't remember. I do not
Because I
remember.
did it.
You did?
I did it. No,
Okay. 'Cause I wonder if the outcome
because
is
I think.
still the same. I don't know if it changes a lot,
Uh-huh.
but
Because what ends up happening is that that man that was helping you, he ends up getting mad at you and everything, and starts yelling at you. Like as you get later on, it's like because you're like in your depression and everything. So that's what kind of happens. As the ferryman celebrates at the prospect of having such a colorful story to tell, the seagulls, actually the souls of liars, see through Benny's lies and become increasingly rowdy. The ferryman realizes this as well, and after silencing the birds, threatens Benny with the consequences of lying to the gatekeeper and insists on the truth. Benny then revisits his childhood once more, and the ferryman analyzes his memory during his visit to the doctor and finally uncovers the truth. The adolescent Benny was diagnosed with a terminal illness and did not have much longer left to live. The memories he started about being an artist were merely Benny's fantasies. He then asked Benny to continue to revisit his true memories. And it is at this point you're attached to the bed, you're hooked onto this medicine,
mhm.
and uh you kind of get like this red kind of bubblish things and stuff. And when you take the medicine, it kind of goes away and everything. You can look at different rooms, and there's a point at the time where you have to keep your eyes open
Mm.
and stare at the camera and look at certain objects because you need to hear what your parents are saying.
Yeah, it kind of forces you to listen to the stuff that you probably don't want to hear,
Hmm.
right?
Yes. Um, because it's mostly the mom and dad, arguing and stuff because they know
Right.
that Benny has this illness. Ooh, sorry about that, everybody. Uh, you have this illness, and you really don't know if you're going to like pass away or anything.
Mm.
Um, you're thinking that when you went to the doctor the first time that you felt better because they never explained the illness, but you see that because the doctor takes the mom to the side and talks about it, and then it kind of like if you blink and fast forward to you in bed, you thinking that you're sick or something, like got a cough or a cold or something, but then you end up feeling better
Mhm.
because like Chloe sneaks in at that time and stuff.
If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support.
Yeah, I think I also remember like everything you're doing is like slow. Like once you start typing on the typewriter, everything is sort of like
Yeah.
it gets slower and slower, and you start to realize that like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah, because he starts like writing a story about his life
Right.
at that point. So, while bedridden, Benny takes up writing on his mother's old typewriter and types out his life story at her insistence. Eventually, disease takes its toll on Benny, and he is forced to take medication, in addition to other medical devices to mitigate the effects of the disease. As Benny's conditions worsens, Richard and Ellie attempt to stay positive in spite of the stresses of their current life. When Benny makes amends with Chloe after getting mad at her for brusquely comparing his situation with their late mother's own illness. Ernie also returns after running away following the death of her kidneys due to coyotes earlier. Eventually, the medication is no longer able to delay the disease, and Benny finally dies, ended up in the afterlife where the ferryman found him. So was it at this point that you started crying? That you felt emotional?
I feel emotional for like so many scenes because I just think about how short time is and how like
Mm-hmm.
so many things we experience in life we like forget, and we kind of forget to sort of take it in and like take in the moment instead of like being on our phones or whatever. So there are just so many scenes in this game where you're just like your mother's talking to you while you're a kid or whatever, and I get emotional because it's like I think about myself as a kid and like these memories that I
Yeah.
used to have with your family and stuff, and then you realize that these people are not going to be here forever, and then you start thinking like, oh, I should have took more advantage and spent more time with this person, or I should have um like just sat in that moment longer. But yeah, these all these scenes when he's on the bed and like sick and they're arguing, it's like such like it's so distraught. Or I'm like, I was just super emotional the entire time, like not really knowing how it was gonna end and stuff like that.
But for me, it was the narrative that, and I didn't. I talked about me feeling emotional about games and like crying and feeling sorrow. So I don't get to the point of physically being emotional, like physically crying or and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Most of the times I would just say, "Oh no, I can't believe this happened!" No, and then I end up wanting to write about it. I want to end up reflecting a little bit more on it and why sometimes emotional stuff in games hits deeper than some of the action-packed, nice-looking cutscenes that you see in certain games.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I talked about like The Last Guardian, and I hopefully we get a chance to play that dragon named Cancer and everything, because a lot of people really cried during the demo of that game and everything. And I remember reading it from about it on Wire, and
Mm-hmm.
in that Wire article, the dad who created the game had got to a point where he couldn't finish it because he
Mm-hmm.
was crying. And today, everybody know that Cancer, that dragon named
Like,
Cancer,
yeah.
is about this son who goes on this adventure and everything. He's a baby, but it was really about this mom and this dad, these parents who end up losing their newborn or their son to cancer.
Yeah.
And to keep him in, to memorialize him, the dad ended up making a game for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took the game to PAX, I believe, or he took this to one of the indie showcases, and people at first like passed by it, but then there was somebody who ended up playing it and giving it a try. It couldn't finish the game because it was making them cry. And every player who went into playing that game, trying out the demo, they left that game crying because of how what the theme was and everything.
Yeah.
Not only are you dealing it with an issue with cancer, but you're dealing it with a newborn uh who is diagnosed with cancer and everything. So people could go watch a playthrough. I think it's still available for people to buy and everything. But I remember hearing about this game, that dragon named Cancer, and like I said, reading and Wire, it's just getting an idea of why this game was being made. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I think of Before Your Eyes and I think of this terminal illness thing, this got to really hit with a lot of people who have lost a child or lost someone because of a terminal illness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only way that you could communicate, because your voice command is not voice command. Your voice is gone, is through physical, is through blinking as communication, kind of like Morse code. It's very interesting to see. I think I wrote an article on Boss Rush, or I'm probably gonna be playing the right one, on why games like Papua and Yo, The Last Guardian, even Gears of War, on why some of those emotional parts of those games need to hit deeper for gamers. And I kind of mentioned, I kind of asked the question, and I wasn't trying to be rude. I'm like, can people with PTSD who came from a war, can they play something like Gears? Can they
Mhm.
play Halo or Call of Duty? Like, I know it's for a lot of people it's stuck, and it's not to be mean or anything, but I'm just like, can people who have that, who want to get into games and they just see that and all of this stuff is marketing, can they play that, or do they voice their opinion and say, I can't play stuff like this because I have actually been through it, you know? And does the I kind of want to add the discussion to it. I'm sorry about that. Does Nintendo games become the stress reliever of that? You know, oh, I got PTSD because of what I seen in Gears, and I relive it. Can they go and play something like Kirby? Can they can they go play something that's like Animal Crossing and not feel uh
Triggered.
something to calm them down, they'll trigger and everything. And we was talking to me and Corey was talking about uh Iwata brought that the scissor, the stress reliever kind of thing that you
Oh
put
yeah,
your
the
finger in,
vitality sensor.
the vitality sensor. How important would that have been if Nintendo went through with it? And like, if even if you could connect it to your Switch nowadays, how important would that be to gamers?
I mean, I don't know.
If
It,
that
it
was
depends.
still,
I guess it depends on what that was actually being used for. Because if I
Mhm.
remember, I thought it was just for like a way to sense your like your heartbeat, right, or like your pressure. So like
Yes,
if you're playing like a horror game or something, I guess you could like you can check your finger for some reason to see how scared you are, your heart rate.
yes,
Or maybe Nintendo is going to make some sort of health game, fitness sort of game that they, like a Wii Fit sort of experience where you could like check your blood pressure, your heart rate. I don't know, but um, I don't know if it would have been important. I guess we would never know because it's not. They shut the door on that.
yeah,
But like you're saying about Nintendo games and PTSD and stuff, yeah, for sure. I mean, and not just Nintendo games. I mean, there are a lot of games like indie games that are cozy and cute and like not really
yeah,
triggering. Like with you won't find gunshots or explosions or grenades. You know, you can. There's so many games out, especially nowadays, that are more like before your eyes, and stuff. That anyone can really just enjoy and not worry about like crazy intense like stuff like shooting and whatever.
yeah. Because there are now a lot of casual games out, um, that like if they that do even do some directs and stuff that we watching just like, oh, that's cool that they're doing this. I'll go support that because it's a calm game. It's nothing
Mhm.
that for me to stress out about. Um, or some games that I can't lose a life or anything. You know, I may mess up and lose some coins, but I'm not dying. You know, Kirby's Epic Yarn is a good example. Sorry, everybody, that I'm going back to Nintendo, but
Welcome to
like
Nintendo Pow Block. I'm just kidding.
exactly. But that game is a big example because everybody made fun of it on how easy it was. But it's a game that's like it's very calming. You can't die.
Yeah,
You lose your rubies, but you're still able to make progress. You
Epic
know, you
Yarn is
still
so
like
much fun. Like it's such a fun game. And sometimes people think that games always have to be so combative and like
yeah,
just think about most AAA games are about killing something, right? Like you have to have a gun, you have to have some type of weapon. AAA games aren't, cozy indie games. Like they just aren't mass. They don't have that mass appeal that a Call of Duty or Gears of War or whatever has. Um, it's interesting to think about stuff like that. I think Nintendo just does a good job too at making games like Kirby's Epic Yarn, where you don't
uh,
even though there's not a challenge per se, they just do a good job of making the gameplay feel good. Like when you're transforming and you're traversing the environments and you're just enjoying the ride almost. It's just a nice ride, right? Like most Kirby
yeah,
games, that's how I feel. It's just like it's just enjoyable, breezy, easy experience where I can like snuggle up with my Switch for a couple minutes and not feel scared or like get stressed about losing to someone online, or like get scared about dying over and over again, game overs. Like you just don't have that. So it's nice to have games like that where you're just like, I'm not gonna be stressed, I'm not gonna die. Everything's about, just enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I know we're gonna get back into the game because we're almost to the end of it. But I think it's really important when a game can bring some kind of emotion out to you, and it always, like I said, it's always up to the player and everything. We talked about the remains of Edith Finch. What remains of Edith Finch, and we just talked about all of the stories that went on, and we talked about the baby.
The
Spoiler
bathtub.
alert. Yeah, in the hot tub, and in the hot tub, in the tub, and how that death happened, and how that alone would make you put down the game and everything, and you would just be like, "Wow, this family really is cursed with dying." Telling these stories on how they died. Some are like funny, some are just like kind of grippy, and some are just emotional and everything. And I think it's when you're playing a walking simulator and it deals with death, and you're hearing memories, or you're about to live that death, it really impacts you, because even though it's a virtual world, it kind of makes you think, is this going to be me when I actually pass away? So we're going to get into the final part of this game. As they reach the gatekeeper's sanctuary, the ferryman decides against a grandiose tale like he originally intended, and instead opts for a simple summary of Benny's life by repeating Ellie's response to Benny's life story. Although he lived only a short and ordinary life, he nonetheless lived a good one by giving hope to his friends and family. Pleased by this display of heart and sincerity, the gatekeeper allows Benny to pass through as the ferryman asks him to close his eyes one last time.
Yes.
And when he closes his eyes, the screen goes black and the game ends.
I think you also hear something from the parents, I think, too. I think you hear the mom's voice, and she says something like, why is he... I think this happens here, but she's like, why is he smiling so much? Like talking about Benny, and then they say like it's because he's somewhere happy, or he's somewhere where he feels good now, which always gets me. Like the ending made me cry, especially when you feel it, when you close your eyes and you feel like, and you hear them like speaking to you within. It just feels like you're sort of transcending. Like I felt myself almost like dying and becoming this like spiritual like being, and being entered into like God's, whatever the heck, like heaven. This whole ending, just this final part, I think like the message overall is like, just like I was talking about earlier, like you just can't, all the moments that you have with people, just make sure you really respect that time you have and don't take it for granted, because, they could be gone tomorrow. Right. And you're going to be regretting, like, I wish I would have called this person more. I wish I would have spent more time with this person. I wish I didn't say this thing. I wish I didn't, all these things. And originally, Benny wanted that crazy grandiose story because he thought he wouldn't be accepted right to the gatekeeper or whatever. And then it realizes like he actually lived like a short, ordinary life, and he still gets through. And I think that's also saying something about like, I think as a society, I hate saying that, as a society, but we're kind of like not forced to, but we always feel like we always have to leave a legacy behind when we die, right? We get so stressed out and concerned about like, when I die, like, what am I leaving behind? Like, what have I done to for people to remember me by? And I think that sticks in our heads a lot, but sometimes it's not always about trying to be remembered, because that's just not everyone's gonna live this like crazy celebrity life where you're gonna like have this crazy famous painting, or like not everyone's gonna have like music that everyone's gonna listen to. Not everyone's gonna have like this incredible life. So I think this is saying like it's almost okay to have a life sometimes that's ordinary, or it's not like, it's just not extraordinary, basically, which I think about a lot, or recently at least.
Yeah, you don't feel immortalized. or anything. You know,
Yeah.
what you do now in the present. And I think that's why we talk about just in gaming in general being positive. When we talk about, you know, supporting each other in a good light, just gamers, male, female, um, LGBT, QBI plus eight, whatever. Uh, uh, just just whoever you are. If you love gaming, people who are watching you or people who are listening to you or people who are actually playing with you, it's good to have a positive and a respectable community and have other people who are saying on that same level and everything of being respectable. Because I'm like, you don't want to leave this world with any kind of hate towards you, or um or you leaving this world hating somebody and
Mm.
stuff. uh you know, you want to be remembered for the good things that you did and everything. And I believe this game, like before your eyes, the meaning for it is that everything is happening before your eyes. And in the blink of an eye, time passes. You
Mhm.
know, it's that general. And if you and you know that time is going to pass and it's going to get to a point where you can't blink anymore because your eyes are shut because you passed away.
That's deep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's another way to look at it. Yeah.
yeah, so while you are on this earth and you are able to do something good and love people and, you know, be supportive, take advantage of that if you can. Yeah, you may not ever get to a celebrity status. It is okay.
Yeah. As long as
You
you're
know.
doing the work that you like and you find
Mm-hmm.
you're sincere, and you're like, like the ending of this of the game, it's like it says that, he still lived a good life by giving hope to his friends and family. So Benny was, good to his friends. He was good to his family with the time that he had. And we kind of just, as humans, need to be like that, right? We have to have hope and be positive about stuff. Not like not like a toxic positivity thing where people are like,
Yeah.
no, you can't be sad. Like, we're going to be sad about stuff all the time. That's okay. It's definitely okay to feel sad and feel emotions, but it's just like the matter of fact of getting through those emotions to reach the level of happiness that you want, and not get stuck in like these negative feelings all the time. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to say. um,
Well, as we get into our last thoughts about this game, I kind of just want to ask you through this last question, Grayson, how would you feel if you did find out a friend had a terminal illness that they were going to be passing away soon? Um, what what I kind of I want to ask you, like, what would be the last thing you would hope to do with that person if you could?
God, yeah. I mean, so I was just thinking about like my best friend who lives in Florida. Who I see like maybe once or twice a year whenever I visit.
Uh-huh.
So of course, if that were to happen, I'm gonna be completely like a wreck. Like, there's nothing you could do about it, right? Because it's gonna happen, and they're
Uh-huh.
not gonna have a long time left. I just would want them to know that I would make sure they know how much I care about them and love them. And me and him grew up a lot playing video games when we were younger and stuff. So that's always been that thing that keeps us reunited and keep that we have that in common. So I mean, I would try to play games with them, as much as I can before they go. Our favorite games, the games we used to play as kids together, anything like multiplayer, just to have that um, co-op experience or something like uh, before they end up dying. Because I guess it depends on the illness, but if they can't, like, I'm imagining them like not being able to move, like they're stuck in a bed,
Uh-huh.
like this, like Benny. Um, But yeah, that's probably what I would want to like focus on, like spend time with them, let them know how much I care about them, and play some games. Um, how about you?
I think, and this is not connected to Corey because Corey's like my bestie. That's my bro him and
Yeah.
everything. Um, but I think if I had a friend that was on that level, if I found out, because that's the important thing, I want to find out and everything. But if I found out that they're on their last leg and I'm able to go see them or something, I'm making a trip to go see them. And
Mm.
I think the first thing we'll probably do, of course, we'll reminisce and talk, but I kind of would like if they were able to still, well, no, they probably wouldn't be able to move because I'd be like, I would like to play an Uno game with them or something. But I think I will probably find out what their favorite song is
Oh.
and sing it to them. Whether if it's good or bad, or they like it or anything, I would probably find their favorite song and do my best to sing it to them
Oh,
and
that's
everything.
sweet. That's
And
cute.
I know it'll be like, I can't believe I'm leaving this world. I think it would be like, right. I think it would be like, this is very sincere because it comes from my heart. Because first of all, I got to make it through the song without crying and everything.
Yeah,
Because
good
I'm
luck.
like, right, I'm singing it straight to you, to your face, while you're slowly fading away. Because I don't want to be
Yeah.
like, I don't, man, to get a call to be like, you just saw your friend or friend or whoever. You get back to the hotel or wherever you're staying at, and you get the phone call that that person passed away, or after you just did something and walked out the room, they passed away. Like that will, yes, everybody, that's dark, but it has happened to some people that they've been in the room with them and their heartbeat went
Kaput.
straight to a line.
Yeah, I can't even imagine losing someone that was like in the same, that was like living with me or something, like someone super
Mm-hmm.
super close. Like my father passed away a few years ago, who I wasn't close to at all, but it was a phone call, like you mentioned, and like when it happens, you're just like, what? Like what? Like you don't think it happens to you, right? Because I never really like lost someone really close to me until that happened. So it was like
Uh-huh.
just, it's a crazy feeling, and that was someone who I'm not even close to. So I can't even imagine the day my grandmother, God forbid, something happens to her. It's just like I think about it a lot, like when it happens, because I kind of prepare myself um for those feelings. Like it's gonna happen. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna need my boyfriend to like hug me and tell me everything's okay. But I'm gonna like still break down like I did when my dad died. It's just like, because you have all these emotions that pop up in your head. Like maybe I should have seen him when he wanted to see me or whatever, or like maybe I should have not have ignored calls or whatever. It's like it really puts things in perspective. Um, yeah, this game just hits so hard because like stuff like that, where like death. I think about death a lot and losing
Mm-hmm.
people, and I try to enjoy life as much as I can, and not. It's funny because at the beginning of the game, when you see the crows or the seagulls on the boat,
Yeah.
the wolf mentions that they're like clock watchers, and that's how they ended up as seagulls, right? Because they weren't their story wasn't good enough or whatever. So I
Yeah.
found that interesting, that the people that are watching the clock all the time are the ones that aren't really living. They don't have the most fulfilling life because they're looking at the clock and you're just thinking about time passing by. You're thinking about the next day instead of thinking about the present, like right now, right? Like you're
Right.
like, oh, I tomorrow I have to do this, a week after I'm going to do this and this and this, and you're like, what about now? Like, what about today? What are you doing? Are you living your life to the full extent? Are you happy? Are you like with the right person? Are you, it's just, I found that interesting when I replayed it today. Like he called them the time watchers or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Uh, it, so before we wrap this up, I definitely recommend this game Before Your Eyes. I think it's a game that people definitely should play. What about you?
Yeah, of course. Like besides like the camera issues you've had, like if you have a computer and you have a good webcam, it should work. I feel like for most people, maybe you'll have some issues,
Mm-hmm.
but even if the eye stuff doesn't work like it's intended, I think the story alone and going through that is just it's still really interesting. And I don't know, in some ways it's sort of like comforting, even though it's sad, like a little therapeutic. The way
Yes.
it ends, it ends on a very like I cried at the end because it's not sad. It's more of like almost like a happy feeling, like that. I felt like a warm feeling in my body when you get to close your eyes and you feel like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, like you're sort of like going with Benny to heaven or wherever he's going, somewhere where he's really happy. It feels really good, like the end. Even though he's gone through so much bad shit in his life. I don't know. It makes me a little more like it makes me a little bit less scared of dying. Basically, is what I take from this game.
I wonder, is there a walking simulator, or if someone's going to make one uh, about COVID, losing someone to
Oh no,
COVID,
please no.
and having to deal with that? Because I
Definitely a
think
thing, if not
what,
already. Like I'm
but
sure
I
there's some
haven't
random
heard
Steam
any.
games about like COVID or something.
Right. I haven't heard anything, but I wonder, is that going to be kind of like in the future that someone does do a walking simulator about that COVID side, and people literally lose it, and telling the stories of, someone losing a family member or friend to COVID, a person who's dealing with COVID because they was reckless, or and what about the hospital and the nurses that had to deal with not only the disease and the precautions, but just the people who were so against nurses and hospitals and everything, and dealing with hospitals being filled up because of the COVID
And
epidemic.
yeah.
It- do you think we'll see something like that in the future, or should we see something like that? I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I think because it's COVID is still fairly newish, I feel like there's probably game developers already thinking about stories they can tell about the pandemic, and not just about like the disease part of it, but I think the solitary part of it too. Like
Yes.
I can imagine an indie game where a developer's working on a game about working on a game or something, and they had to move out of the office and work from home, and then someone in their family got sick and they couldn't leave their house, and I can totally see a story like that, and showing like the really bad times of COVID for people who are like really lonely and had no partner to go to or no friends they can see, especially if they lost someone, like a family member died. Like there's such good stories someone could tell about the whole thing. um I don't know if we'll see a lot of that stuff because I feel like sometimes people don't want to really play games about COVID or whatever because we don't want to. It's like it's over and we don't want to like talk about it anymore. We don't want to like relive it. But I think there's a potential for some like good storytelling there, um, for sure. Yeah,
Okay, well, everybody, that's gonna be it for this Talk the Walk. Grayson, thank you for joining me for this discussion. If
thank
you want
you.
to go ahead and plug, you can.
Yeah, sure. If anyone wants to follow me, you can check my workout at gamerant.com. I have a lot of guides that I've written there, and we've been covering, Resident Evil 4, and we plan on covering Breath of the Wild and Street Fighter 6 and all that stuff. So make sure to check us out. We've been putting out some really good guides lately. So yeah, and I am also primarily on Twitter at Greysun Morales. So just my first name and my last name. And then if you want to, I'm also on TikTok and Instagram. Just search my first name, Greysun, and you should find me. There's like no one else with Grayson spelled that way, so it's not hard to find my social media. But yeah, but thank you for having me. This was actually, I wish I was able to finish my replay so I can like remember
Hmm.
everything because it's been so long. But it was so nice to hear you and your thoughts on it and what it meant to you. And I feel like I have more of a respect for this game even now talking about it with you. It kind of opened my eyes about um, some more of the game's like themes or what it was trying to do. I need to finish it again for sure so I can remember like the middle part of it. But man, this game is so good. Like everyone should play it. If you know, it's super cheap too. So
Yeah, I ended up getting it for $5 off of Steam. So
same, yeah, exactly.
I kind of want to have like a talk the walk, recap, like rewind, and talk about some of the games that we played that we did a series on, and people just come back and have that discussion. Like after playing that game, and sometimes have passed, how do you feel about it now? Because we got a good list, you know. Our last episode was Detroit Become Human that I did with Nelly. That one was a really good. And we're getting ready, everybody, for our next game. We're doing Coffee Talk episode 2. Now, I will say that this one is going to kind of be a little bit late due to the fact that the game is coming in later in April. We won't have the discussion in May due to the fact that Tears of the Kingdom is coming out. So I don't want to rush Coffee Talk 2 because people probably want to play the first game and everything. So I think what's going to end up happening is that we're going to drop the episode on the day of Coffee Talk episode 2 on the release, so people can watch it and then play the game. And so in June, when we come back to have that discussion, we'll be ready because I think we'll have enough talk the walk discussions. Man, June is gonna be packed, dude. So it's talk the walk, it's the Pride panel, and then more.
More Zelda. Zelda.
Where I think we're doing the Tears of the Kingdom spoiler cast in June, but I don't know. We're all
coming out in 1 month. What the heck? Going on.
That gameplay trailer. Like we're talking about it on Power Block. People be able to see.
Excited to hear it. Because this episode you guys are recording tonight, is this the first time you talked about the gameplay?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay.
The gameplay happened. Yeah, the gameplay happened on the Wednesday before Power Block happened.
Okay.
So
yeah.
By the time you guys talk about it. Yeah, we'll have the discussion. You'll see, hear our thoughts and everything. But with that, everybody, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on Talk the Walk. Bye, everybody. Talk the Walk is a product of Boss Rush Media, LLC, and is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio. This show is hosted by me, Edward Varnell. My co-host is Celeste Roberts. You can find Celeste at Fairy Crypt on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at That Retro Code on Twitter and Instagram and hosting Nintendo Power Block. You can follow Talk the Walk's release schedule by following the Boss Rush Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Boss Rush Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.